What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the TEC-9, which I think is significantly underrated weapon right now. I think it's one of the best, if not the best SMG in the game for a lot of different use cases. So we'll go through and compare it to a bunch of different weapons. But as always, if you guys like the content, you like the website, drop us a sub, a comment, and a like. Helps us out with the algorithm and really just helps support the channel and the website. So let's jump into it here, and we will talk about the TEC-9. So in my mind, there's always kind of been two different types of SMGs. There's been SMGs that are super fast killing, like the Modern Warfare MP5 was back in the day. And then there's the more accurate, more long range, maybe longer damage profile SMGs that kind of can be extended out a little bit. So if you tend to get engagements that are a little longer than like 10 meters or 15 meters, then you might want to consider one of these other SMGs. And that is where the TEC-9 fits. So right now, the OTS is no question the best SMG up close. Better than the Modern Warfare MP5, better than the Cold War MP5. There's nothing that really touches it. So it kind of wins that type of SMG currently. But I think as far as the second type of SMG, where it has more damage range and better TTKs out at range, and it's much more forgiving in terms of engagement range, I think the TEC-9 is no question the best SMG for that right now. The one downside that we will talk about is how you can't suppress it. The full auto attachment is what we're talking about today. So the TEC-9 default is a single shot weapon, which is really hard to use, and it's just not very good. And then it also has a burst fire repeater attachment for the muzzle slot that turns it into a burst gun. Still not very good. And then the last attachment is the full auto repeater, which also goes in the muzzle slot, and that turns it into a fully automatic weapon. And each one of these attachments completely changes the damage profile, so you can't look at the single shot damage profile and say, oh wow, well, if that shoots at 900 RPM, then it's broken. Well, that would be true, but they completely change the damage profile when you put one of these attachments on there. So we're just talking about the full auto version of the TEC-9 today because I think that's the one that really shines. And we'll get into the TTKs here. So you can see I've got MAC-10, orange, Bullfrog is this magenta, Cyan is the Cold War AK. I put that on there just because that's more of a long-range gun because it's an AR. OTS-9 is green, and then TEC-9 with the full auto repeater attachment is the darker blue color. So you can see on here right away, this is 250 health chest shots. The OTS-9, again, like I said, is going to be the champion easily in that first damage range, which is what it's made for. It's a fantastic gun. It doesn't have very much recoil, has great mobility, and fantastic TTKs. And then next up is the TEC-9, actually, about 60 milliseconds slower in that first damage range, but then it extends out to 14 meters. So you get much more range with the TEC-9 than you do with the OTS. And you can see even after that first drop off here, the TEC-9 maintains a really good TTK all the way out, especially compared to like the OTS. Again, it fits more of like a MAC-10 role or a Bullfrog role where it's a more all-round SMG. And you can see I have the Bullfrog on here, the magenta color, and the MAC-10 on here in the orange color. And when you include open bolt delay, which isn't always important, but is important sometimes, you can see that the TEC-9 kills faster than the MAC-10 and has just a little bit less range. And then out at range has dramatically better TTKs than the MAC-10. As far as the Bullfrog, it just doesn't even compete. The TEC-9 is just much faster than the Bullfrog everywhere. And let's look at extremity shots. That's another good thing to look at. 250 health TTK on extremity shots. OTS is going to win again by a little bit this time, not by a ton. Followed by the Cold War AK, and then followed by the TEC-9. Again, the TEC-9 is actually closer in this case to the OTS than it was on chest shots. You can see the MAC-10 and the Bullfrog are dramatically slower again than the TEC-9. So I think for that reason alone, the TEC-9 is very slept on right now. We'll go talk about mobility stats and things like that. But overall, I think TTK is massively important for SMGs, and the TEC-9 has very good TTKs all the way out. Makes it a very forgiving SMG to use. All right, so base stats. The things we're going to focus on here are mobility, pretty much, because TTK and mobility are kind of the two really important things, as well as damage per mag for SMGs. So ADS times, it has good ADS times. Sprint to fire is standard SMG sprint to fire. But you can see the TEC-9 has a little bit slower movement speed than most Cold War guns. So it's a little bit faster than the Bullfrog, but quite a bit slower than the MAC-10 and the OTS. But it still is going to be a lot faster than like an AR. So like the Cold War AK, which is one of the most mobile ARs right now, is going to be quite a bit slower than the TEC-9 in both movement speed, ADS movement speed, and sprint speed. So you do get the benefit of better mobility than an AR, but it's still not quite there in terms of like the best in the game for mobility. So MAC-10 and OTS are both basically tied for the best mobility in the game. So if you want that, those are going to be better options, but you can still throw a Tiger Team on the TEC-9 and get much better mobility there. Overall, mobility is pretty good. It's just not, S tier. It's not the absolute best, but it is very good. So one thing about the TEC-9 that is a drawback is it only has that 48 round mag. So the biggest magazine you can put in the TEC-9 is 48 rounds. And for automatic at almost 1,000 RPM, that's not very big. So damage per mag is an important thing to consider. Obviously, the MAC-10 has been hugely popular in the professional scene, and just in general, people love the MAC-10. So I would say this 1222 of the MAC-10 right here is a good baseline for like pretty close to the minimum damage per mag that is usable in Warzone. And you can see up at the TEC-9 down here at the bottom, it's 1270. So it's slightly higher than the MAC-10, but essentially the same. The MAC-10 gets that 53 round mag, and the TEC-9 gets the 48 round mag, and they have similar-ish fire rates. The MAC-10's a little bit faster, so it hits a little bit lighter in terms of damage per bullet. And the TEC-9 hits a little bit harder in terms of damage per bullet, so that's how it comes out that it actually has a little bit more damage per mag with the TEC-9 than you get with the MAC-10. So there is one other thing to consider with this gun. There's no suppressors for it, so you can't ever be fully suppressed and ever not show up on the minimap completely. So the SOCOM Eliminator, Full Auto Repeater, Burst Fire Repeater, and Flash Guard all have this position concealment, and I went in and tested that. I know Exclusive Ace had covered this in the past. I've never watched that video, and I wanted to just double check and make sure nothing had changed. So I went in and checked everything. I didn't know how it worked. I was hoping that it reduced the range at which the dot would show up on the minimap. That's not how it works. What it does is basically when you shoot an unsuppressed gun normally, you show up on the minimap and the compass for, I didn't actually time it, but probably like 3 seconds or 4 seconds. It's pretty long, the amount of time your red dot will stay on the minimap. But when you have position concealment, the red dot on the minimap and the compass only shows up for a fraction of that time. So it's probably somewhere in the half a second or even less amount of time. Again, I didn't time it, but it was a dramatic difference in how long the dot would show up. But obviously, if you're firing automatic fire for more than, half a second anyway, you're going to show up for a longer amount of time anyway. So I do think it's significant, and I do think it helps you not get third-partied. Back when suppressors were broken, it was probably like 6 months ago now. It was a long time ago. It completely changed the way the game played because I would get third-partied all the time in Verdansk, and people were just coming out of everywhere because they saw the dots on the minimap and they pushed it. So I do think suppressors are very, very important, and I think I've used this gun exclusively pretty much for the last, 2 or 3 days. However long I've been back from COD Champs, I've been using the TEC-9 almost exclusively. And I found it didn't feel that way at all. So I don't know what's going on. I think maybe this position concealment is actually more of a significant effect than I thought it would be. It seems like people don't really push off of it like you would expect an unsuppressed gun. So I don't really have a problem using this. But if you really want to stay off the minimap and don't want to get third-partied, then you're probably going to have to use something else just because there's no suppressors for this gun. All right, so recommended builds. This is going to be my PC recommendation as an SMG. So this thing essentially has very high fire rate and quite a bit of recoil. It's not unmanageable recoil, but it is quite a bit of recoil. So I like to use the Field Agent. In order to get that mobility back up, I counter that with the Tiger Team Spotlight. And because I'm on PC and I don't have a controller, I don't have aim assist. I've talked about this in the past, but aim assist I feel like really, really helps you with being able to track targets that you can't always perfectly see. Whereas when you're playing on mouse and key, you don't have aim assist, so you have to be able to see your target and know exactly where you're aiming. There's no external force that's pulling you towards the target when you can't even see it. So I don't think there's like a crazy advantage or anything to that. I'm just saying I think you have to build your guns a little bit differently. And for me on PC with mouse and key, I really like to have an optic. The iron sights are pretty good, so if you're on console, probably stick with iron sights. But I really like having an optic on this thing. I just feel like I hit more shots. With the Tiger Team, it feels like mobility is pretty good. Again, full auto repeater is necessary. Single shot and burst are just not very good on this thing. And then as far as magazine goes, I measured the difference in these two mags in terms of ADS, and I think it was like an extra 8 milliseconds to go to the fast mag. And the regular 48 round mag has that really annoying issue that all the Cold War guns had when they were first integrated, where when you tried to put the mag in and you'd sprint to cancel the animation just because it looked like the animation was finished. That is not timed perfectly correctly with the STANAG 48. If it was, I probably would use that, but since it's not, I like to use the fast mag because that fixes that problem, and you pretty much always reload when you expect that you're reloaded. But that can get you killed really often if you think you've reloaded the gun but you haven't. And that was happening to me all the time with the STANAG. So I've gone with the fast mag. The ADS times are still really, really good. But this is my SMG build. It's really good. It feels great. It feels like a really, really good SMG. If you wanted to up the mobility, You can just go to bruiser grip. That'll just increase your mobility. Again, if you're on console and you want to go iron sights, I would probably go task force barrel just to get more damage range, because it's relatively significant how much damage range you can get from that. Obviously, that's going to increase your recoil, so I'd probably go back to the field agent grip if I'm going to use task force, just because this gives it quite a bit of recoil. It already has a lot to start with, but with the task force, it has even more. So what I just showed you was my SMG build to run with like an AR, like, I don't know, Cold War AK or Krig or something like that. But if you're going to try to run this with a sniper, because it has really good TTKs out at range, it's actually a decent option for sniper support. But again, it has a lot of recoil, so it is hard to control. So obviously full auto repeater, field agent, 48 round fast mag. Explained that in the last part. Tiger team, this is kind of up to you. I personally, if I'm on PC, I'm going to take that Tiger team off and put on probably a mill stop. So this would be my sniper support build. It's basically the same. The only difference is you get this ranger barrel for much more bullet velocity. That'll help you hit your shots at range, especially for 30-meter engagements, things like that. It really helps to have higher bullet velocity, since the default SMG bullet velocity is down at 350 meters per second. It doesn't work great as a sniper support just because it has a lot of recoil, but it's not bad. It's very good on rebirth, actually, because all your engagements are like closer up and you can get behind cover a lot easier on rebirth. But on Verdansk, it's not a great sniper support, so I'd probably stick with like a Cold War AK or something like that. Alright guys, that's all I wanted to cover, and I'm not like just making a video to make a video here. I genuinely think this is one of the best SMGs in the game right now, and nobody's using it, so I want to get this out there. I'm sure a bunch of other content creators will make videos about it after I make this video, but that's how it goes. So, appreciate you guys. If you like the content, drop a sub, like, comment, help the channel grow, and I will see you in the next video. Hope you have a great day.